Welcome, viewers. I am CJ, your host for Dating and Relationships, or DNR for short, podcast. I am excited to bring you real, authentic conversations about dating and relationships from all aspects of today. We're here sharing issues, questions, and or stories that will hopefully bring to light some answers, light entertainment, and more understanding of today's dating and relationship worlds we all have encountered. My guests on this podcast are volunteers from all walks of life and backgrounds and are eager to share some of their personal experiences to hopefully connect, build a community for growth, and specifically on this topic. Viewers are welcome to share some of their stories or if they relate to a specific episode, but in a very respectful and cordial manner. The hope is to reach as many viewers as possible, hopefully worldwide, to create understanding, communicate and learn from one another, and also to come together. Please enjoy the videos. Welcome, viewers. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dating and Relationships. And today I have another great friend, Omi. Hi.
Hi.
And what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about growth and empowerment during the dating relationship that she's had over the journey of her life to this moment. So before we get started, Omi, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And give me some background about yourself, like your credentials, and then we'll get started on the questions.
Okay. So I graduated with my bachelor's in business management.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I worked in higher ed for approximately 7 years. Um, and I am an entrepreneur. I have my own event coordinated um, business. It's called O Creations, and I do weddings, birthdays, and then side hustles of like personal items like love balloons, bouquets, etc.
Oh, that's amazing. And on top of that, you got to add your right now a single mom. You have your own
Yep,
things going
yep,
on.
I have 2 kids, a homeowner, just bought my second car. So a lot going on, a lot of blessings all at once.
So before we get started, you are one of my good friends, and one thing that I do admire about you is how young you are, and yet you have, set yourself a lot of goals. You're
Yeah.
in your early 30s, and you're just starting out. I want to say you're just starting out because us Gen Xers, we're survivors, right? Right, folks, Gen Xers, we're survivors. So I want to go ahead and get straight to it.
Mhm.
So can you go ahead and describe like what was your family dynamic growing up? And I believe you were the youngest sibling, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was a house full of all girls.
Oh.
I was the baby. I was the princess. Um, it was really chaotic as the smallest because I saw a lot of the trauma, a lot of the fighting, the cat fights, and I noticed like what to do and what not to do. Um, I definitely learned from my sister's actions. Um, but overall, it was also like a sisterhood,
Okay.
with
You
like
guys were very close knit.
for the most part, yeah. I think we fought as much as we told each other secrets. Um, we confided in each other, we looked up to each other a lot. And having so many sisters I looked up to, it was a lot of choices that I could make,
How
and
many
actions.
sisters?
I have 4 sisters.
Okay, so total of five.
Yes,
Wow,
yep.
all girls.
All girls, and my mom was a single mom as well.
So
So
six.
yeah, 6 girls, and then we had even a dog that was a girl. So it was full of women.
Oh, I can only imagine during the cycle.
Yeah, we were always in sync.
Okay, so how did your upbringing shape your understanding of relationships? Because you mentioned about your sisters that you learned about the things. So, like when you got into the dating age, what was your understanding? What shaped you?
Um, well, I didn't really get into dating until I got older. I feel like, when you're young, you have that puppy love. Um, and my mom was I've only seen her with one person. Um,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of changes, throughout my childhood. We've moved, we've losing my dad, seeing my mom survive, with five girls. It was a lot. Um, Always seen her as a hard worker. She was more at work, to be honest, than at home, but it showed me that, the resilient side of her and the
Mm.
hardworking part of her. Um, so it was basically like first, me and my sisters kind of raised each other.
Yeah.
So it was really respect in that household
So you've
overall.
basically got a little Gen X situation going there.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so you can pass by. Uh, we can adopt her. Okay, Gen Xer, we can adopt her. Did you feel that you had some guide in your early relationships? Why or why not?
Guidance.
Hmm.
Um, I wouldn't say it was the best guidance.
Okay.
I saw a lot of toxic relationships. Um, I
Can you talk a
think
little bit about that? And
no.
what do you
So
consider toxic? Because a lot of our viewers may have a different definition what toxic.
to be honest, I didn't know what toxic meant till I got older, and I kind of like experienced it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was younger, I thought it was like a normal,
Oh, you
like
thought it
the
was a norm.
arguing
Oh.
and fighting,
Mm-hmm.
the multiple women included in relation,
Mm.
like the cheating and the fights with other women. Um,
Wow.
and it was, it was all girls, so I saw a lot of my sisters being the victim in the
Mm.
relationship. So seeing that, it was like, okay, is that I knew something about it wasn't okay, but I've seen it so often,
Then you thought it was the
that I was
norm.
like, okay, I guess that's like the trying tribulations in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Um, but now that I get older, toxic to me, it's more manipulation, narcissism, um, guilt. I
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, toxic is different for everyone. It's a different meaning for it's
Absolutely.
not just one meaning. It's like an umbrella of things.
Absolutely. Do you feel like, you know, in your household growing up, messages did you receive from sisters or, whatever role models you had in your life that you received about love and growing up within that process?
Um, Love is definitely family, loyalty. Having each other's back no matter what. Um, Also apologizing. We were really stubborn. I admit. We were
Well,
hard headed.
six women. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it.
But we also knew not to cross boundaries, like no matter what, we can pull each other's hair one day, but when we need help the next day, we're gonna be there. We're gonna figure out what happened.
Yeah.
Um, I think also just building trust that no matter what, um, we're gonna get by everything, you know,
Yeah.
together or not. Um,
Like they say, blood is thicker than water.
yes, yeah,
Hmm.
um, yeah,
So, because of all that upbringing that you saw going, so I know you were a young mom,
yes.
just so the viewers know. How old were you when you became a mom? And what were some of the challenges that you faced as a young mom?
I was 17, 17, 18 when I had my son.
You look
Um,
17 now. What you doing?
uh, it's honestly, I don't know what the trick is, but I went through a lot of trouble with stability.
Mm.
Um, the only thing I had stable was my job because it was like a commitment that I was not going to break. Even, when I found out I was pregnant with my son was when I actually had my first job, and I had to walk, 8 months pregnant across the bridge. It was like cold, summer, rain, dry. Um, I would
All
always
the
have to
elements, weather
everything.
conditions,
Yes.
nothing stopped
When
you.
you hear that back in the day that I used to go to school when there was a snowstorm, or nope, that was me for work. I was really committed, and
Yes. Gen Xers, we can adopt her. We can.
I was really devoted to make sure that my kid was gonna come to a good life, you know. I didn't want my kids, and I say plural as well, to see the struggle and feel the struggle. You know, if it rains, it's gonna pour on me, not on my kids. And I had that mindset since I was young, since my first kid.
Get a strong work ethic.
Yeah. So I had a lot of struggles in not only home security, but trust in my relationship as well, you know, in the sense of, um, I guess, cheating, stealing,
Mm.
um, double life,
Oh, wow.
domestic violence, shelters. You know, it was a lot on my plate, and I just
Did you go through that in your first
my
relationship
first, yeah.
with your son's father?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically,
In which it goes back to my childhood of what I thought
oh,
was
you thought it was
normal.
normal, so
Hmm.
you didn't really think too much of it, right?
No, I was just like, oh, I'll be okay.
See, this is why, I thank you for sharing, the beginnings of your story. And this is the reason why we're making a show is because there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of people who are in relationships or starting relationships, and they don't know what's the norm. And
Hmm.
hopefully some of this information can be guidance. It's not a means for everything. Do your research, but this is why it's important that we share our stories.
Yeah,
Mm,
awareness.
yes.
Hmm.
So with that said, how did being a mother impact your relationship after experiencing all that?
I put myself first. I put my kid first and then me second. And if it wasn't benefiting us, I just me lavo las manos. Wash my hands. I'm Spanglish, so it's gonna be
It's
English and
fine. It's
Spanish,
fine. It
but
happened.
yeah, I didn't at first I would dwell on it until after the DV incident. I didn't look back. I couldn't regret any decision I made for the
Mm,
sake of my kids' safety. And you know, for a long time I dwelled on it. Um, but it was the best decision I made, you know, leaving the
mhm,
situation. It was hard, you know, with transferring to a new place. I felt like I had to protect my kid and just shelter him in a
mhm.
way where I was antisocial. I didn't want to leave the
Really?
house. Um, but then I found a new job and everything changed. So,
Well, that's good. So I know you mentioned the DV, and for those folks who don't know what DV means, it's domestic violence.
mhm.
Um, Now you mentioned it was a toxic relationship. Would you be okay sharing how toxic, it looked or it felt for you? Like what was toxic in that sense for you?
um, so toxic in that moment was, um, I guess, I mean, looking back at it, in the moment, I didn't really think it was toxic. But if I'm looking back at it
Hmm.
now, it was, um, you know, the double life, um, the borrowing money, but actually stealing without me knowing, you know, like taking the money without me knowing it. Um, saying, "Oh, I'll pay you back," and it was never paid back.
Hmm.
And this is my son's piggy bank that I'm talking about, you
Wow.
know. And
Wow.
it didn't happen just once; it happened multiple
Multiple
times.
times.
And I kept okay, like you know, I trust him; he's gonna put it back, and it never happened.
Hmm.
So it was more of like gaslighting, um, and also manipulation of, you know, you're overreacting.
Mm.
Um,
So the manipulation was if you reacted or you said anything, he would make you feel like it was your fault.
Yeah, like you're tripping, like you're crazy. You know, and I'm like, maybe I am. But then, you know, at the moment,
Yeah.
I was so easily brainwashed. Um, and now it's like, say it again. But no, now it's like now I'm aware of what a narcissist could possibly be, and you know what the
Yeah.
red flags are too.
You
And
still
actually, just go with your gut.
correct. You're still young and you're learning, but you have friends like me and
Mhm.
others as you really realize, and we're gonna have your back no matter what.
Always.
He has been adopted as my little sister. Okay. So, what helped you to begin to break the cycle of being in an unhealthy relationship?
Awareness, self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
accountability. I realized that it takes two to tangle. And in the sense of, when you're being gaslighted, knowing that you're being gaslighted, but still falling for it and just like going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
I think was important for me to realize this stuff out of it. Like, oh, Mary, this is, you know what you're doing. You're consciously choosing to continue this road. Um,
Yeah.
and there's a saying, which is funny because I just spoke about it earlier today, and I might say it wrong, but it's better to get out the car earlier
Mm.
than staying in the car when it's uncomfortable just to get to your destination because it's a shorter walk home. And I
Okay.
might have said it wrong, but I
No,
don't know if that makes sense, you
no,
know?
no, no, no.
And it
It
comes
does
in a
make sense.
relationship. Like, don't stay in a relationship because it's comfortable and,
Yeah.
you want to see this future with this person.
I can relate to you in that sense, Omi, because I myself I was also in a toxic DV relationship.
Hmm.
And when she talks about gaslighting and manipulation, I consider myself someone who is, smart, can read between the lines, educated,
Very smart.
right? And I fell for it. I
Hmm.
also fell for it because the power of the manipulation that that other person has on you, it does really make you think that you are, because we're kind hearted, right? We're good hearted. They make you feel so guilty
Hmm.
that their devastation, they make it seem like it's your fault.
Yes.
And then you try to back off from that situation and give in,
Hmm.
but you know it's wrong, and you still.
I think it also comes with trust and
Mm,
confidence. And because the reason why I say that is you trust the person you're with to not hurt you and to have the best interest in
yeah,
all times.
yeah,
So when you're being gaslighted, it's like, no, this is not this person. Like there's no way,
yeah.
right? Like there's no way they can hurt me. And then there's also building the confidence to say what you feel and actually walking away from it when you need to. And it's hard to do.
And another thing, it is, for me, for example, when I was in that situation, I did not, like, a narcissistic personality will take you away from your support system if you have
Hmm.
support system. I didn't have support, and it lasted quite a while in that. And I
Hmm.
still to this day, I'm like, what was wrong with me, right? I woke up. Trust me, I woke up and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, one day you just the light switches.
Did you have the support system after you decided to walk away?
I did, and I did. I I don't know if I can relate or if anyone can relate to me, but I feel like when I'm in a relationship, I lose myself in a relationship.
Mhm,
I can admit to that.
mhm.
Um, but I'm really grateful and thankful for the people that I have that no matter what, they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel in the beginning like I messed up. Like, I lose myself in this relationship. Um, and I don't know if they're gonna be there after.
Mhm,
And they are. Like you said, it comes down to the people you have that love you and
mhm.
support you no matter what, that are always gonna be there for you.
Well, I'm gonna add a question to this. What makes you feel is I don't know if it's part of your personality or part of what growing up. What makes you feel that you lost yourself in a relationship? That you every time you get into a relationship kind of lose yourself. Like, is that your thing, or is that something that you feel that you learned?
So this is me taking accountability. This is me exercising it. That yes, um I can admit that I lose myself in this because you have that honeymoon where you just want to spend every minute with the person. Um and you kind of just like push the outside world away.
Mm,
Um in the point where it's like you'd rather just stay home and it's always good to have your girls. Always have your girlfriends. And this is something
mhm,
that when I get married again, if I get married again, when my kids get married,
mm,
the toast is gonna be keep your guy friends, keep your girlfriends.
mhm,
Always.
mhm,
Like make time for them.
mhm.
Um, and I think it's important for the reason why is they remind you.
Who you are?
Yes, you know, and it's so easy to get lost in the person you love.
Yeah.
So it's good
So
to have that support system that reminds you who you are as an individual, as a person, as a friend, as a sibling, as an aunt, you know. Um, so I think I forgot what I was saying.
So it's in other words, if you ever get involved in another relationship, you're gonna keep true to
Keep the
yourself
yes.
and keep
Mm-hmm.
the people who remind you of you.
Yes.
So let me ask you, let's fast forward a little bit. You had this toxic relationship, and then obviously you had said you had two kids.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with the second relationship? And you also mentioned that you got married. So talk a little bit about that. And
That's a decade full of tea.
let's try to summarize as
So
much as we.
it was a lot of. I mean, I can't really pinpoint of what
How old
went
were you, by the
wrong,
way, when
but
you left the relationship and when you met Anu?
I was really young. Let me just say I was married before 21.
Okay. With
Um,
the second?
with yeah, with my second child's father. Um, and there was more sun than rain, I
Okay.
should say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for the most part, again, that was my longest relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and my only marriage, so it was easy to be devoted to someone.
Yeah.
Um, but for toxicity, honey, the list goes on and on. And it comes
Yeah.
from both parties. Like I was more controlling, and it came from insecurity.
And from the past relationship, it carried
Yes.
over to the
hmm
new relationship. So this is
I
important to
didn't
talk
really
about.
heal neither. If and it's very and pardon, I don't mean to
No, that's
interrupt you,
okay.
but it's very important to heal before you move forward because that past trauma will bleed into your future
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And a lot of people think I left this relationship, now I have, I guess, like a rebound. And it turns out to be serious, but you don't really notice that you haven't fixed that trauma,
Mm-hmm.
that it's still causing problems in your new relationship.
Because you were reacting different with this relationship based on the past.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
And what he what your spouse could do might not technically be the same that the previous one did, but
Mm-hmm.
you're reacting the same because it's the
Right.
same feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's the feeling of betrayal, it's the feeling of dishonest, is um the equation is so long, and if you're good with like math, what's that really like? It has like it's like calculus plus algebra at the same. I don't even
Well, let's
know.
not talk about math, right?
That's what it is, when you're trying to put the pieces together, but you haven't
Yeah,
healed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be a huge problem. You're not gonna know the source until
It's
you
like
work on
trying to
yourself.
solve a math equation and you're missing certain pieces that will give you the conclusion, and you keep repeating it
hmm
over and over that problem
Yes,
until you try to fix it, but you can't get the information because you don't have the knowledge yet.
right. Yeah.
I get it. See,
Yeah.
there you go for math folks. So with that said, you said that that was a decade, so you were with this person on and off for about a decade. So I know that you have your bachelor's degree. So tell me, when was it that you decided to go back and focus on yourself? Like, what happened with the relationship that sort of inspired you to do that?
So I had a life-threatening wake-up call
Oh,
where I had to choose myself.
wow.
And it was unfortunate. Um, it kind of led to a divorce. And so having that feeling of letting my kids down again,
Mm,
being, I
yeah.
it didn't work out. Okay, so it didn't work out with the first one. So when I noticed that it wasn't working out for the second one, I couldn't let my kids down, and I
Mm,
had to put myself first again. Um, and I noticed that going back to school has always been my strength. Um, and it was something that I can actually say it's mine, and no one can take it away from me. So when I went back to school, and I was really stubborn. Um, I just wanted to get in and out, get a job, get a certificate, get a good job. Um, but by someone who is amazing, has encouraged me to stay in school for my
mhm.
associates and then transfer me to get a
I don't know
bachelor's.
who she's talking about, by the
Uh,
way.
um, so I was able to feel good about what I'm doing. I finally felt like I'm not a failure. I'm doing good.
Mhm.
My kids can look up to this and feel good about their mom. And that actually motivated me to do more. Like, don't settle for bare minimum. My
Mhm.
mindset was so little.
Mhm.
And going to school just expanded my horizons of what I'm capable of doing.
Since I have some inside information I want to share with you and the audience and the viewers today, I remember that I said this particular advice to you. I said, Omi, when you realize that you have outgrown people around you or the people that you had relationships with, life is going to look so much different.
Yes.
So now that it's been several, like 5+ years since last time I think I said that to you,
Mm-hmm.
um, what do you think of that advice or that saying?
It's funny because when you told me that, I'm like, never. Like I would never outgrow the people I love. And no, it's true. It's true. Like now looking back, I wish I wasn't so resistant in
Mhm.
outgrowing people. Like it's not a bad thing outgrowing people. Um, it actually gives you a whole different lifestyle,
Mhm.
and um once you it's scary, right? Like, because
Mhm.
there's a whole change, and anything
Mhm.
that's changed that involves change, you don't know what's on the other side. Um, but you just have to take it by the horns and just do it.
Exactly.
Um, and it feels good afterwards, like you grow so much in the sense of when you look back, it's like, wow, it's I can't believe I was in that predicament ever, and I was comfortable in staying in that position.
Mhm. Mhm.
And once you let go, it feels so good.
You're giving me goosebumps. And I know you for a while. It's just giving me goosebumps. So let me ask you this too. Because you also mentioned you're homeowners.
Mhm.
So you went and you pursue education. You got your degree. You have a professional job plus a side business. Now that you're a homeowner, what challenges, for some viewers who may be able to relate, did you encounter, and while doing that and at the same time juggling your family.
So I want to say having a home is a huge milestone and achievement.
Mhm.
But it also comes with a lot of responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, and purchasing a home by myself, it was scary. It was very scary, and I was very doubtful. And if you know me, I overthink everything.
Mhm.
And so this was something I felt very overwhelming
Mhm.
in doing,
Yeah.
but I also felt such a huge independency if I
Mhm.
was to do it. So I was like, Mary, just do it. And again, in all this, all I'm thinking about is for my kids.
Mhm.
Um,
So your inspiration,
yes,
pretty
my
much.
motivation, everything.
Mhm.
So when I bought the home, it was scary in the sense of I'm gonna have to do repairs by myself. I'm gonna be one handyman, and I don't even know how to change a light bulb because I'm scared of getting electrified. It's like things like that I overthink. So when I bought my home, I was so determined. I ripped off all my rugs that was bought with the house. I put new rugs, and this is, I had help from my village. Um, but it was I guess my biggest challenge was overcoming that fear of being by yourself.
Mhm.
And it's been one of my greatest blessings is having that peace of myself.
Mhm.
Um, so sometimes your fear becomes your strength, you
Absolutely.
know?
I feel that people fear things they don't understand.
Yes.
So because you don't understand something, you automatically fear it. Now, because I went through that journey prior, like to her, and I did help and advise you on certain things
Mhm.
that helped you. And I kept constantly telling you, don't be scared, just do this, do that, and reassure you. But at the end of the day, it's harder when it's your first time doing everything.
Yeah.
But you had the courage to take it by the horns and go
Yes.
for it.
You've been the one of my greatest blessings with giving me that push
Mm.
right before I receive one of the biggest blessings every time.
You're welcome.
So with my degree, with my car, with my house,
Yeah.
you have just been the light to my
What are friends for? You
path.
know? So, what personal values have you developed over the years that has guided you today?
Empathy is one of the biggest ones.
Hmm.
Um, I think once you master, and I'm not saying that I mastered it, but once you
Girl,
master
you're
your
so young.
learning empathy, um, it's hard for people to upset you.
Mm,
And so you become a little bit more patient, more
mm,
understanding, um, and that goes a long way, I
mhm.
feel as so. And not just professionally, but as a family, as a mom, as a friend, spouse, and also gratitude, being very thankful of my path.
Absolutely. 1,000% agree with you with gratitude. Grateful every day.
And growth and like just mindset.
Hmm.
Um, I'm still learning emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
um, and resilience, you're gonna go through so many struggles, and
Hmm.
this is just human. Everyone
Hmm.
goes through different problems in their own way.
Hmm.
um but I think just showing that you're gonna be there no matter what, just showing up, I guess. um and lastly is I feel like isn't having integrity, is just having morals for
Hmm.
yourself, being trustworthy, dependable, I think goes a long way as
Yeah,
well.
I think with what you just said, you have, I always say this, me, myself, and I. That's who you have.
Yes.
Because if you are codependent on family members, on a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a wife, a husband, you know, you tend to lose yourself in the
Yes.
process. So I feel that once you learn who you are,
Hmm.
which we still evolve, by the way, right?
And continue to.
Continue to
Hmm.
evolve and grow. Once you find out who you are, once you understand your determination and what drives you, I think nothing
It's hard to stop to get
nothing
stopped.
stops you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that's why a lot of people may lack when they're codependent on
Yeah.
a relationship. So that's why dating and relationships is important to talk about this codependency because, as you mentioned earlier, you tended to get lost in the
Hmm.
relationship because you
Yeah.
divulged a lot of stuff growing up. Now that you are in your very early 30s and you have come a long way,
Hmm.
right? What is your value now? Like, what do you value the most? Just if you can mention one thing.
One thing,
Hmm.
self love.
I love that.
Self love. Love yourself first. Like, hear your body, listen to it.
Hmm.
Take personal time.
Yes.
Sleep a little longer. Snooze the alarm, especially on the weekends. I don't know why I'm up at 7 in the morning.
I told
You
you to
know?
do a weekend getaway and just to get.
Yes.
I've done it and I love it.
But you know what? I took your advice and I went on a mommy and me trip with my kids, and it has been, and again, it was one of the scariest things. And I'm like, I can't do this. I was like seconds away of canceling my flight same night. And I was like, Mary, no, just do it. And it was the best experience I've had with
I
my
know you couldn't
kids.
stop talking about it.
Yeah, I cried. I cried when I had to leave the vacation. So,
It's
yes.
funny. You remind me of another person who did the same thing that I helped them. It's funny. I don't know. It just happens. So, how would you describe yourself now compared to who you were 10 years ago?
Smarter, more aware. Um, Not so much gullible and naive. I think mature, patient, loving is I'm more like madura. That's like mature, right? That's
Yeah, yeah.
maturity. I don't know. I feel like madura has more behind meanings, if that makes sense.
It's like wiser.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. So we have a few more questions
Mhm.
because we wanted to make sure everyone gets the whole picture. So now that you've matured and you have given yourself more self-love, what does a healthy relationship mean to you now?
First thing first, communicating respectfully, and it's not just listening. Because a lot of people listen to respond,
Hmm.
and it's difficult to listen and understand when it's criticism,
Hmm.
constructive criticism. It comes from
Yes,
the heart. It's,
yes.
it's not, a lot of people take offense to it. Um, I definitely feel like other than communication, which is high up there, it's selfishness.
Being
It's
selfless.
selfless. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, you try to mix two words together.
selfishness. Yeah,
Selfless.
selfless.
Yeah,
Um, it's knowing that sometimes it doesn't mean you have to give 100% or that you're gonna receive 100%.
correct.
It's okay to have 50%, 25%, and the other person. And sometimes the other person won't give enough to reach 100, and that's okay. I think it comes down to understanding where we are as an individual
Hmm.
and what we can bring as a partner.
Maybe I can learn some things from you. I'm still Gen X. You know how we still we're the generations that we just don't care anymore, right? Because we had to survive, right?
Mhm.
So your patience, I'm working on those.
I have a patience of an angel, I swear.
Yeah, you do. Like sometimes your patience gets me impatient. So what are the boundaries that you've learned to set for yourself?
Um, Boundaries. Not going back on my word. If I need time, you're gonna respect my time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I, for instance, if I want to table a conversation, I'm standing my ground on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna have the conversation. And I think that's important to know when you're ready to have the conversation. Um, I also want to say is my girl time.
Yes.
That's untouched.
Mm-hmm.
My time with my girls is my time with the girls. Um, and I guess I don't know. I feel like I'm put in the spot now.
Yeah. Think about it for a minute. Think about it for a minute. We'll come
Mhm.
back to it if you need
Yeah.
to. So, how do you communicate your needs in a relationship today?
I sit on it
Okay.
for quite some time, and I write notes for
Yeah.
myself until I'm able to articulate it in a way where I feel comfortable in expressing that is respectful,
Hmm.
and mindful of the other person's emotions, as well as still being able to express my needs.
Wow. Oh, she's becoming like the perfect woman. Stop it. That's really good advice though. Now, the important piece now. What are some red flags you know or now recognize early on
um,
for other folks who might be looking for that
I would
information?
say, and I know a lot of people might not like this, but believe what you see the first time. Don't
Great
don't
advice.
paint them. If they showed you their true colors the first way, that's how they are. And it's so hard. You can't change someone,
Yeah.
especially in this age. Like this is kind of like who they are.
Hmm.
You can't raise your spouse to be the person you want them to be.
Right.
You're gonna have to accept them who they are. And if you don't like it, kick rocks. Um, and narcissist comes in different forms.
Yes.
It's like it doesn't come as one shape form. It can be with the way that they talk to you, with the way they
Hmm.
make you feel, with
Hmm.
their actions. It comes in so many different forms that, as if it makes you feel less than, reevaluate the
Yeah. I'm
That is
actually
true.
gonna, give a piece. I had a past guest in here that he mentioned when a guy, like, let's say you go on a date, like, I'm single right now, I'm dating, and I go on a date, and there was a guy that I mentioned to this past guest. I'm like, oh, he mentioned that he used to do like strip joints and party like an animal, and he used to do this and he used to do that, and now he's working on those things. And she says to me, if he's saying that to you, girl, he is actually telling you who he is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And because of that advice, I decided to, okay, that's probably true. And so then when I talked to that guy again after, we went on a date and we talked, she was right. He started coming up with excuses of doing this and
Yeah.
doing that. And so therefore, what you just said, the red flags is if they're telling you this is who they used to be, and I'm giving credit to this to Will. She was a past guest here. She's the one who gave me this advice. If they're telling you from the get-go, from the very beginning, this is how I used to be, this is what I did, and that is a narcissist in hiding,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're saying it on the first or second date,
Mm-hmm.
not really having a deep conversation. And sometimes I try to get deep quick in conversations. And
Yeah, to get to the
I like
point.
to get right in there and get deep, and it usually takes them by surprise. And
Mm-hmm.
then all these things, all their traumas start to come out. And for me, because I have a certain ability to do that, I can tell right away whether they have worked on it or not. Someone who has worked on themselves is not going to come out and say it. They're going to show you.
Yes.
You
Yes.
agree?
I agree. And I also believe that people would adjust to someone that they want to be with, right?
Hmm.
But old habits die hard. Like what is it? Old habits
By heart.
are
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's hard to change.
Yes. Habits are stronger than change, because
Mhm.
sometimes people are in relationships because they just are comfortable with each other because
Mhm.
it's more of a habit. Just
Yeah.
like someone who smokes, they have a habit of smoking. It's really going to be hard for them to stop cold turkey.
Mhm.
So it is old habits die hard, but at the same time, like you just mentioned, real change, real growth, as this
Is
is the
by
topic,
action.
is by actions,
Mhm.
and not talking is showing you.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Anyone who talks too much about what they've done and what they're doing different, it's not only that I've noticed, not only to prove to you that they're saying it too, but also to hear themselves, and so they can believe it.
Mhm.
And that's when
Yes.
I hear a narcissist. They repeat something over and over and over again because they want to convince themselves.
Mhm.
So it's like
Mhm.
they're telling themselves a lie, but they're saying it forward, so they have to believe it. And I recognize that now, being in a relationship that was kind of toxic and narcissistic. I can recognize those signs right away.
Yeah.
But so I'm kind of thankful that I went through that experience. It wasn't fun, but I'm thankful for it.
Mhm.
But it's true that, we just have to make sure that those red flags from the very beginning, like you mentioned.
It's not a carnival. It's not a carnival.
So the cargo is not a parking sign. Just so now that we're almost concluding this, this session here, what advice would you give to your younger self or to another young Latina navigating love, motherhood, and healing, as you mentioned?
um, I would say listen to your heart. It's if it's aching, if it's happy, follow it. You know, um, it took me a really long time, but I noticed that the beach is my happy place, and for a long time I gave it excuses because it was hours away, and now I prioritize that during the summer. You know,
Absolutely.
um, and be patient. A lot of times when you're young, you think you know it all. You don't. You don't. Stay young, live young. There's so many responsibilities behind adulthood that as
Hmm.
a kid, when you're, it's sometimes like when your parents it's a blessing in disguise, I guess,
Mhm.
and a curse at the same time because we don't know the depths of responsibilities
Mhm.
until we get older, and it's like you can't wait to grow up, and it's like I wish I would have waited.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and girl, you're doing such a good job. That's one thing,
Me?
Like
Oh,
this is
you?
me telling my younger self,
Okay,
right?
good, good.
You're
Okay.
amazing too.
Okay, you got me a little confused there for a minute.
No, I would, because like I said, since I was little, I was always overthinking stuff,
Mhm.
and it's like, girl, just relax, like I wish you could have just taken a little bit more of a deep breath when you're
I'm
outside.
gonna remember that next time I give you advice.
Yeah, it's a nice um celebrate the little wins.
Mhm.
I wish I would have told myself, my younger self, celebrate them.
Well, this has definitely been very enlightening. So, just to do a quick recap, growth and empowerment comes with experience.
Yes.
It also comes with, you know, making sure you're making the decisions, prioritizing yourself
Mhm.
above all things, listening to your intuition, listening
Mhm.
to your heart, as you mentioned, but at the same time, be careful because the brain and the heart, they don't
Battle a
mix.
lot.
Yeah.
Yes, they
And what's
do.
logical and rational, the heart's like, oh, poor. Yeah, that's what got me. That's what got me into that toxic relationship to stay longer than I needed to. So there, and don't isolate yourself, right?
Yes.
Also have that support system
Mhm.
and always have a plan. That's why it's important that
Yes.
you said to have your girl time because they're going to keep you present. They're going to keep you there, especially those who have your best interest at heart.
Mhm.
Because there's people out there that they only are worried about
It's a
themselves.
distraction and
hmm And them being selfish and them wanting what they want, that they might steer you wrong.
yeah.
And this is why we're having this conversation today and sharing it with the viewers to make sure that you all listen to that. You all have your village, your support
Yes.
system, and your friends and family, and people who have your best interest. If they don't have your best interest at heart, well, you said kick rocks.
Yeah.
That's not at your next term, is it? No, no. Anyways. Okay. Well, anyways, other than that, I want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you again for having me.
Thanks.
Such a
And
pleasure.
we're gonna have another one of this because in the future we'll have more a group dynamic just to have a little bit more conversation.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Tune in.
So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.